This video is sponsored by Rockland Flooring. Visit our website for more information.
Has this ever happened to you?
My data!
You've got too much raw data on your fleet's trucks.
I need to figure out what to do with all this.
You need to figure out practical uses for all that data and find ways that can help your fleet.
I have to act now and call the number.
What number?
Aren't you selling some sort of hot new product? Available only on TV for a very short time?
No.
Oh. I guess I'll need to figure this out another way. Today's average fleet has an absolute ton of data streaming off of all their trucks. But sheer data is no good to you on its own. You need to understand what you can do with it and the ways in which it can help your fleet. I had a chance to talk to Stephen White, Associate Vice President of Commercial Enterprise Sales at Geotab, right when his company was coming off a bevy of announcements at its Geotab Connect event in Las Vegas. Here's what he had to say about how fleets can effectively use their data.
Yeah, the one thing you can do, I was just talking to a person, I can't name the company, of course, but I was just talking to a person who runs one of the world's largest waste collection companies, and give me a great example of, what they're able to do, and they're actually able to help the truck OEMs. So they had a case where they had a waste truck that was on a hill facing downhill. Driver sets the parking brake, and driver gets out of the truck to get the refuge bins, and the parking brake released. And of course the OEM says, the driver must have released it. Well, you could tell by the seat position that there's nobody in the seat, the seatbelt was off and the door was open. So you could, obviously it was apparent using the data off the truck that nobody was in it, and the pressure built up enough on that parking brake and it released itself. And luckily there was a kind of a brick wall that stopped the truck before it hit the house that was behind it. And nobody, a person wasn't in front of it. But it's those kind of things where it's like, okay, is it the fault of the truck, the fault of the driver? Which, if something serious would have happened, would have ended in a nuclear type lawsuit. So it's being able to prove, those, especially when you get into, the Class 8 on highway trucks. One of the biggest problems you have these days is litigation. The nuclear verdicts are literally putting these truck companies out of business. There's been several that have had to go bankrupt because of them. Or there's been a couple of the mega fleets, they've paid, millions, if not 100 million, on some of these lawsuits. And were they their fault or not their fault? Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't really matter. But if you can prove, and you've got, the data from the vehicle of, hey, they're saying, you're speeding, or you didn't stop, or you turned too fast, so you can go back and through. No, my driver at the cruise control set, 2 miles an hour below the speed limit, was going in a straight line, and you can see from the G-forces on the side of the vehicle that it was a car that hit the truck, not the truck that hit it. So that's where it's getting quite vital, being able to have that type of information, depth information, be able to prove it. So you can sort of say, okay, GPS position, this is where the truck was, through the vehicle, coming through the engine control modules on the vehicle, the brakes were, applied at, 100%, so the driver was trying to stop. 30 seconds prior to the accident, the driver was going the speed limit, wasn't speeding. So you're able to prove those. They're pretty conclusive when it comes to the court of law, thankfully, still. We'll see how long that lasts. But, that is what's really, saving people. But then on the flip side of it is also being able to have the data where those vehicles are, as simple as that, and also be able to correlate all the data you're coming in. So if you take like on-highway driver hours of service, I can maximize the efficiency of my fleet of, okay, I've got a driver that's got 10 minutes before he's got to take a 30-minute break, or I've got a driver that's got 4 hours available. So it's like, okay, I've got a load that needs to go 3 hours out. Well, I'm going to take the guy who's got 4 hours available right now to be able to get the load there in time for my customer that you can have. I can also adjust what's the most efficient route for that driver, because the shortest route isn't always the most efficient. So I want to be able to see, maybe the route that's 10 miles longer might be on flat land. I, improve my fuel economy by 10%. And not only am I saving fuel, but I'm also emitting less CO2 as well for my sustainability record for the company. Years ago, it was always having a forward-facing camera. And then, some sort of adapt the in-cab cameras, so the driver-facing camera or sensor that we like to call it. And a lot of drivers are very reluctant to have a forward-facing, camera because they're afraid people are watching them all day. And once they learn that's like, hey, I'm really not going to be watching you all day. I'm only going to watch you when it's going to be needed, when there's an event. And it saves them from having to go to a lawsuit or driver having, serious fines applied towards them or having their CDL taken away from them. Then they've really started to adopt that. And, when they can stand and say, hey, I was driving down the road, making sure that, 10 minutes prior to an accident, the driver was focused on the road and had both hands on the wheel, and you could easily see the vehicle cut in front of them, slam on their brakes, and a truck hauling 80,000 pounds takes a little ways to stop. That the driver wasn't at fault. If you didn't have that, of course, the driver was falling too close to the car, hit the car, and cause severe injuries. So now that the drivers are realizing, like, hey, if I'm a good driver and I'm a professional that I am, I want that camera.
For even more trucking and equipment content, head over to the Fleet Equipment site at fleetequipmentmag.com. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.